Hi guys, today we're going to have a look at the context and background for the radio address from Washington delivered by Franklin Roosevelt on the 8th of December 1941. Make sure you use information here to fill in the table in your speeches booklet. Similarly to what we did with the Hitler speech, there'll be two sections that you need to research yourself, and it will be a different two sections to the ones you had to research last time. This will mean that when we come to your unseen speeches, you've had practice doing some of this research for yourself. So the first section to have a look at is the speech and the speaker. I'll get you to do a bit of research on that for yourselves. So who the person was, what their story was, and then some basic facts on what the speech was and who was speaking it. So that's one you'll have to go and research for yourself. The historical context. So prior to this speech, America had undertaken an isolationist policy. So that meant they wanted to be isolated. They didn't want to get involved. They were supplying the Allied forces with things that they needed, but they weren't directly involved in the war. So they didn't have any soldiers committed to the war. They were just helping with money, food, that sort of thing for the Allied forces. America had ceased oil exports to Japan earlier in that year. So oil, petrol, all those sorts of things weren't being sent to Japan. And so in a preemptive strike, Japan launched an attack on Pearl Harbor on December the 7th, 1941. The attack on Pearl Harbor was a complete surprise. Hundreds of Japanese fighter planes and bombers flew to Pearl Harbor and attacked the naval station and the planes and so on there. The bombers dropped bombs and torpedoes onto the warships while fighter planes attacked US fighter planes on the ground so that they couldn't take off and fight back. So it was mainly aimed at the Navy and Air Force. There were two waves of attacks, and by the end of the second wave, a number of US ships were destroyed. Although there was lots of damage, the US military wasn't completely destroyed, and it was this event that sparked America joining the war officially. So in terms of the effect or the purpose of the speech, it was essentially about America declaring war. So the speech was originally delivered to Congress and was designed to respond to the attack that had just happened and outline America's position in response to that attack. The speech was later broadcast on radio, meaning that it was designed with both the American government and the American public in mind. The speech outlined the history of the war to date and America's attempt to remain neutral and impartial during conflict. He also addressed the fact that America was now at war and urged his people to prepare for all that would be involved in the war effort. So as with a lot of our speeches, it's a bit complicated because he's trying to do multiple things. So he's trying to outline what has happened. He's also talking about what happened at Pearl Harbor the day before, and also talk about his justification for entering the war, which was something the American public up until this point hadn't been very keen to do. And then the final bit that you will need to have a look at is the impact that this speech had. So having a look at whether or not this speech was successful in what it was trying to do. Did it actually achieve the goals that it wanted to achieve? All of those sorts of things. So make sure that you have these sections completed and ready to go for class.